Good evening and welcome to Story Hour. Tonight is another wonderful night of Spooky Month. We've been doing Story Hour for the past more than 5 years, ever since my co-host, the marvelous Daniel Marcus, started it. But October's, he lets me basically run wild and bring in all the scary stories from all the sweetest writers reading their scary stories. So here we are. And tonight we have two returning really sweet writers reading really scary stories. We have Gemma Files and ML Krishnan. If you're here on Zoom, feel free to join in on the text chat. If you're on YouTube, there may not be text chat, but you could leave us a comment to, make us feel loved. We always appreciate that. And let's dive in. Our first reader tonight is Gemma Files. Born in England and raised in Toronto, Canada, Gemma Files has been an award-winning horror author for over 30 years. She is probably best known for her novel experimental film, one of my personal favorites, for which she has won both the Shirley Jackson Award and the Sunburst Award, and her Bram Stoker award-winning short story collections In That Endlessness, Our End, and Blood from the Air, both from Grimscribe. Her latest collection, Little Horn Stories, has just been released by Shortwave Publishing, and by just, I mean like yesterday.
Yep.
Gemma, welcome back.
Hey, really nice to be here.
Nice to have you.
This is my new book, and I will also point out that it is full of spooky pictures that I drew myself.
Oh,
Yep.
Lord.
Yep.
Oh, Lord.
I was very happy to be able to do that.
Of stuff there.
Yeah. Pretty monsters, stuff like that. Not so pretty monsters.
Mm-hmm. So I understand you're reading us something special tonight.
Yeah, this is a story that has not been placed anywhere yet. And I wrote it. It's actually, I think, the last thing that I finished. And it kind of speaks to the moment, I believe, in a lot of ways. So I guess I'll just go ahead and do that.
So aside from the fear that it may curse us all, are there any content warnings we need to worry about?
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. But most immediately, I suppose, child death, gaslighting, and just bad stuff. Lying, lot of lying, and blood.
All right, well, now we're prepared.
Okay. All right. So this is called Lathspell, I Name You. Definition of the word from the Anglo-Saxon. Lathspell, a painful, hateful, or grievous story. Lathspell, an untrue story, a lie. And a line from The Ring. Take one person's tragedy and spread it around like sickness, forcing everyone else to experience it. He doesn't see her coming until she's almost there. Doesn't recognize her immediately. She's so changed. Not at first glance, not at second, not third. What he actually recognizes first is the coat, the one her mom once gave her, that rich burgundy wool, now gone all ragged and dirt stiff. It's ripped sateen lining, falling out in shreds beneath the hem like shed skin, and she herself, knotted curtain of hair, mainly gray now, original dye job only visible along the very tips, no makeup, half her teeth gone, the rest decayed to the gums, some almost black, the lines of her face fallen in all over, especially underneath one eye, where somebody must have broken her cheekbone a while back. When? Skin still discolored, yellow, not purple, bruise almost gone. Doesn't matter. Not his fault, not his problem, not anymore. No Cleo with her, he thinks, then shoves that way back down inside because her mom probably has her, right? Of course, always dependable, Lee's mom. It can't be more than 2 years since he saw them last, though. And for Lee to be looking this bad. Celine's in the car already, scrolling through her phone, waiting for him to slip in behind the wheel, looks up when he doesn't, then squints back, asks, "What's wrong?" "Nothing," he says automatically. "Okay, then who are you looking at?" Nobody." Sitting up now, eyes sharper, she checks him, then Lee, then him again. "Obviously not, though. Do you know that woman?" Not really. Don't lie, Mike." No point in bothering to object. They both know better. That's the difference between him and her versus him and Lee, the lessons Lee taught him going forward in terms of how Lee let him treat her, which is why it's never going to happen again, not with Celine or anyone else if he can help it. Thinking all this, but not saying it, because that would be beyond stupid, really, if he wants to keep what he's made for himself since he left Lee behind, since they broke each other apart. Thank God for learning to keep your mouth shut under pressure or otherwise. "Look," he tells Celine finally, "it's just some crazy homeless lady I was dumb enough to give change to the other day. So seriously, I'll be back in a minute, okay? She's like imprinted on me or something. You stay here. Let me handle it. Lock the doors." Lock the doors. Why? Does he really think Lee would hurt her? Or him? No, she'd never do that, no matter how many reasons he's given her to want to. They're almost close enough to touch now, but Lee doesn't even try, simply stands there, back not quite straight and arms not quite crossed, red-knuckled hands clutching at her coat sleeves, not quite hugging herself, not even vaguely close to smiling as she nods Celine's way, saying, "So she's a new one, hmm? The new me. What do you want, Leonore?" No answer, just a long, sad look. Mike sighs, slides out his phone. "Look, I'm sorry, I guess, for all that. But you need to leave now or I'm calling the cops." "All that," she repeats. "And what are you going to tell them if you do? That you don't know who I am?" "Why would I say that?" "Why indeed? Why indeed? Because you've said so many things about me, Mike, after all. So many things, almost none of which were true." And she doesn't even have to speak the words out loud. That's the worst part. He hears it all the same inside, as she well knows. He glances back at Celine, still watching, says carefully, "You look crazy, Lee. You know that, right?" Lee nods. "Oh, I think I probably am crazy. Yeah, at this point. Pretty damn sure. If you care, I mean, but we both know you don't." Nothing to say to that, so he doesn't. "Clea's gone, by the way," Lee continues. "Turns out that shelter we went to was full of the latest bug, and living in a tent after we got thrown out didn't help either. My mom wanted to pass her condo down to us after her diagnosis, but it turns out the board had to sign off on that, so no. They let us stay until about a week after she opted for assisted suicide, though. That was nice. And we took whatever we could fit in her shopping cart with us when we went." "What?" "You heard me. Your mom's dead?" Another nod. "Clea?" "I left her in the park, under the tent, moved it, buried her, moved it back again. It was easier than you'd think. We were already really close to one of those big piles of compost. Stinks a lot, but people leave your stuff alone, mainly." She keeps her eyes on his throughout, and he finds he can't read them at all. That, shaking his head almost to himself, that can't be true. No, can't it? No, that's just complete bullshit, okay? Why would you tell me something like that, Lee? About Clea? About our daughter? Why would you? All right. Where do you think she is then, Mike? Where do you think she was yesterday or the day before? With you. I mean, yeah, and where was I? Did you go out looking for me every once in a while? Not with her, obviously, the one over there. He stares. I was here the whole time, Mike, right within walking distance with Clea. It's not like we could be anywhere else, like we could have gone away, left the city or anything. I don't have a car. Mom didn't either. Hell, I can't even drive. I don't know what you expect me to say. Lee shrugs. Nothing. Not a thing. It doesn't matter now, does it? They're gone. I'm almost gone too. So why did you? I just came here to tell you something. One thing. Ready? She leans in sidelong towards his ear, a strange motion, almost flirtatious. He can smell her all over, hair thick with old grease, skin cured in sweat, curl of death breath. straight into his half-open mouth, that brown stain all up and down her back, lumpy, biological, dog shit or hers. Someone else's makes him want to heave. And Lee, she just lifts an eyebrow, watching him barely restrain himself from doing so, like she's thinking, oh, honey, always so polite, even when you're doing your level best to make me think I'm the one who's going insane. I never tried to make you think. Yeah, tell yourself that, Mike. Keep on telling yourself, like always, leaning in further and whispering without any sort of emphasis at all. The next lie you tell to anyone will kill you. Then drawing back once more, looking away, her gaze simply, suddenly gone from his, detached with an almost audible click, as if she's done with him at last, forever. What? He hears himself say from a distance. You heard me. You're crazy. So we've established, but that's what I came to say, and I've said it. So I guess it's up to you now to figure it out. Figure what out? Whether or not you believe me. And oh, that terrible smile, so familiar, yet so empty, half rotten, like she's already dead. Goodbye, Mike, she tells him, and walks away. Back in the car, Celine plays with her seatbelt's lock while he assumes his seat, absently pressing down again and again, almost hard enough to disengage, courting the click, saying without looking up as she does, pretty long conversation just to get some crazy homeless lady to fuck off. Mike finds himself nodding. Yeah, well, she was upset. You could see that, right? And I'm not exactly a trained mental health professional either. Nope. So what did she have to say anyhow? I was just insane. An insane bunch of crap. Doesn't even bear thinking about. Mike, Celine. He makes himself hold her gaze carefully. She lets him. You're sure you don't know who that was, she repeats, not bothering to make it sound like a question. Then pauses long enough to leave him more than enough room to confirm or deny, depending. Whatever I say next, he realizes she wants me to make her believe it, because she wants me to let her keep on loving me. But I can't do that, not until the truth. So easy, just open his mouth and answer, to say, well, no, see, I know that lady very well indeed, since like university. See, I wasn't single at all when I met you. I had a wife. And we just had a kid, 3 years of trying, and finally it took. But the pregnancy didn't go well, the birth either. She wrecked herself inside and out, and she was depressed, which was understandable for somebody else, I mean. The doctors said she'd get better eventually, but she just kept on lying in bed and crying, forgetting things. No sex, no cooking, no back to normal. She'd look after Claire, sure, rouse herself for that. But me? It was like I didn't exist, not the way I wanted to, so I complained to my friends and they agreed with me, and I went out to bars to get away from her, and when we started seeing each other, I lied to her about everything. She noticed, not that she noticed much. I told her she had postpartum psychosis. I told other people she had it. Hell, for all I knew, she did. I told the doctors she needed drugs, more drugs, stronger drugs. I left her alone with the baby. I went out and saw you. We fought. She called the cops on me. I told the cops she was crazy. Showed them the drugs I got her onto. I got her committed. I left Cleo with Lee's mom. I moved in with you, let the rent lapse on the old place, took everything, left her to find out what happened when she got back out. I didn't care. I thought she'd be all right, that they both would. She loved that kid. And I loved Cleo too, once, loved both of them, thought I did anyhow, maybe the idea of having a baby, more than the baby herself in the end. But never as much as Lee must have loved me, I guess, to put up with all the shit I put her through. And never as much as I love you right now. Far too much to ever tell you any of this stuff, because I know exactly what would happen if I did. You have self-respect. Lee didn't. That's the difference. Thinking, there's no answer where I don't end up feeling guilty here, right or wrong, no matter what I say. I should feel guilty, and I do. Oh yeah, really, I really do. But not enough to lie. Not enough not to lie. Lee is far away now. Too far to call for. She's turning the corner. Nothing left but her shadow trailing along behind, tainting the dust in her wake. Doesn't matter, he says finally, which certainly doesn't count as a lie per se, unless you're slicing it really fine. But here he feels a twinge inside his head at the same instant, sharp, like bone breaking, followed by a gush of something else on his upper lip, wet, hot. Mike swipes his hand across his mouth, underneath his nose. His fingers come back sticky, covered in bright red blood. Celine's voice penetrates the pain fuzzily, but only just, Mike, are you okay? He shuts his eyes, a half second's blink, and when he opens them again, things are already a little darker, a little pinker. Blood vessels breaking, spreading. His lap is wet, his seat, his tongue splits. He sneezes out a cupful of blood. He starts to choke, chest heaving soggily, lungs full. Celine begins to scream. Fucking Lee, he thinks. Never was one for equivocation. When she does a thing, she gets it done. The widest choke, the most damage. This won't end well, but at least he won't be around to see what happens. Lee wanders away. She goes back to the park, to her tent, her daughter Clea's gravesite. She lies down and sleeps. While sleeping, she dies, gratefully. A tree grows from both their corpses, metaphorically, but even so, a spreading vampire tree. 2 days later, her tent is found and her body is removed. The paramedics drive it over to the morgue. As they go, they talk about the presidential election down south and the provincial election out west, the war in the Middle East, the war in Ukraine. They talk about alternate facts and fake news, misinformation and disinformation, glitches in the matrix, telling the truth in advance. Somebody says they did something, but they didn't, the driver asks. And then later they do. Does that make it a lie? If the thing still got done? The driver nods, then shrugs. Who cares? Depends on the thing, I guess. The other paramedic goes home after having a drink, several rather, with his partner. His wife watches him try to parallel park out front of the house they can barely afford mortgage payments on, frowning as he grins up at her. Jesus, Joe, you're plastered. No, I'm not. You shouldn't even be driving. Joe laughs and gives up, turns the key, stumbles out. How many you think I had, he demands, spreading his arms like a circus ringmaster. 5? 3 at the most. Oh, come on, baby. 3, I promise. He stumbles a bit closer, shaking his head as things dim, pinkening. Man, I feel weird. Hey, why are you looking at me like that? What's wrong? Joe? Yeah? You're bleeding. One lifelong friend of Mike's, chief amongst those who used to listen to him complain about Lee, in fact, back when, had this sliding scale of prevarication he loved to talk about when drunk, and even more when not. He'd given each rung of the lie ladder a color, as if roughing out a sort of mendicant spectrum. It began with a white lie, told to save other people from harm. No, there's no one hidden in my attic, Sturmbannführer. Yes, of course we share your beliefs, Imam. Yes, of course I'll obey that order, officer. Then on to paramedic Joe's favorite, a beige lie told to avoid unpleasantness. Selfish, but not destructive. Or those classic Clint Eastwood movie staples, the gray lie, told to entrap, to solicit a confession, to make the villain reveal him or herself. And the red lie, told in service of whatever you believe to be true, to get around the law when it's getting in the way of the verdict you know someone else deserves. Manufacturing evidence of guilt, revealing secrets anonymously, 2 kinds of lies that supposedly can't harm anyone who isn't already guilty of something. And then right down at the bottom, the darkest lies of all, the brown lie, told for personal convenience or profit, that gives the listener whatever they want to hear in order to get whatever you've decided you need. And the black lie, told for nothing but intentional damage, slander, libel, the sort that deforms fact into fiction, eventually rendering the very idea of provable truth a risible impossibility. The problem with all these categories, Lee might have noted had she been invited, is that they tend to slip and slide depending on the context. A red lie told against an innocent person, for example, isn't red at all, but black. Or maybe they're all black in the right light, the right shadow. I'm doing this for your own good because I love you. We had to do it. It was necessary. Why? Because we say so. I can forgive them for killing my children, but not for making my children kill their children. That never happened. I never said that. You're wrong and you know it. Don't you dare pretend you don't. Oh yeah? Then where are the bodies? You can always tell. Just look at them. Him, her, it. God speaks through me. We all know they can control the weather. It's ridiculous to say they can't. They control everything. Climate change isn't real. You want to play the victim, so maybe you deserve it. He has a plan for everyone. Only a secularist would ever think bad things happen to good people. Everything happens for a reason. It's me. I'm the reason. It's us. We're the reason. A man wearing a police uniform testifies he thought he was in immediate fear for his life when holding army-grade weaponry on someone who, confused by the situation, kept asking what they'd done instead of raising their hands high enough for him to see that they were unarmed. The court reporter looks up at the judge's shout and sees the witness fall over, blood streaming from every pore. In a TV network's newsroom, an editor advises a journalist to change the word children to young adults in her coverage of today's war crimes. So 5, 8, 10, 13-year-olds don't count as kids anymore. Just do it, he orders, and immediately goes blind in his right eye, the aneurysm which kills him a minute later, hemorrhaging wide as a headshot 8-ball. In the back parking lot of a hospital, meanwhile, next to the ambulance intake, a woman's partner holds her up as two uncomfortable-looking ER doctors, an obstetrics nurse, and a security guard block their way in. You'll have to come back, the first doctor says, just an hour more till we can prove you meet the new extreme care requirements. She's bleeding out now, her partner tells him angrily. See that Depend she's wearing? You want to see how full one gets before it starts dragging down your pants like that? Esme, please, the woman mumbles. They're doing your best. Fuck they are, Bev. You just don't want to get fired, isn't that right? Or sued or sent to jail? Rather somebody goes septic before that happens? We can save her, I swear. Even if the nurse begins, but even as she does, the second doctor puts in, of course not, and the first doctor nods, and both doctors die. And the security guard shoots Esme, then blurts that he didn't mean to, so he dies too. And the nurse tries her best, but Beverly dies anyway. She holds Bev's hand as she dies, telling her child will be fine, which means the last thing Bev sees is the nurse slumping over next to her. Because good as her intentions might have been, Bev knows the nurse must have been able to tell that her baby had almost certainly been dead for days. Far away, across the water, in a strip of land mainly reduced to rubble or less than rubble, soldiers yell how they won't shoot if the people they're aiming at just put down what's left of their homes before splashing readily outwards, setting off a howling chorus of cheers, which end first in thanks to their god for proving itself different/better than the soldiers' god, and then in a blood wave going back the other way. Tanks roll on when their drivers die, crushing whatever's still in front of them. Drones crash because their pilots obey orders, declaring everyone below a valid target, doing far more damage than ever intended. Things get worse and worse. Every bomb blast bigger, every fire less controllable, every mudslide spreading further, every flood or train derailment more toxic, each new hurricane literally blowing past the next one's measurements, reaching F6, F7, F8, F9, F10. Lee and Clea's tree keeps on growing, piling curse on curse. It spreads high and wide and relentless. Its shadow makes no distinction. Eventually, the whole world will fall under it, swamped by selfish anger like a sickness, an infinite infection. Becomes a place where true is the same as false and false is the same as true, so equally that neither matters. Muddying things until every color disappears, until the spectrum flushes itself like a dying person's vision, turning red, then brown, then black. Pain and grief, rage and hate, whatever explanation you can find for why your own actions are justified, whatever story you can cling to, which allows you to go on doing what you want to, even when you know it's wrong. The death of love, the love of death, and no forgiveness, none, ever, because forgiveness is just another lie. Leaving us here at last, parent and child, entwined together in a corner of their apartment's smoke-black wreck, with everything they have left piled around them, nestled in sheets and garbage, as a fire made from broken furniture banks down to ash beside them. No power, air rank with the smell of a toilet clogged by unflushable filth. The wind's roar is so high, they can't hear the sirens anymore, and rain pelts hard enough to crack the windows, coming in at sharp angles. And when it's finally wet enough where they lie for the parent to gather a handful of water to moisten the child's fever-burnt mouth, the last of the light is gone, just a mass of howling dark with two soft voices knotted in the middle of it, murmuring to each other disaster's old refrain, a web of lies told long before language, chasing comfort through faith or the idea of it, the possibility in the promise. I love you. Me too, baby. Will we be okay? Sure we will. The parent, glad the child can't see them dying as they answer. The child, simply glad to be held as they die, saying back and forth into each other's mouths as their shared breath slows, as the waters rise outside. I'll take care of you. I'll make it better. Everything is going to be fine. The end.
Damn.
Thanks.
So maybe just a minute of stunned faces.
I remember, I think it was like a year or a couple of years ago, I came on and I read something that I wrote right after Roe versus Wade was overturned. And I thought that that was the angriest thing that I'd written. But no, no.
That
I
would
think it
have
broke that
been
barrier.
that would have been Black Cohosh.
It was, yes.
Yeah. That was an amazing story and amazing reading too. I remember that it just felt like you were channeling it.
Yeah.
It was just coming straight out of you. And I knew that you had written the words down. But
Wow.
yeah.
There's just something about it's silly. But there's a lot of ridiculousness talked about autistic justice seeking. But there's something about lying that just makes me insane. And
I don't think that's silly, actually.
It's not.
Yeah.
If that's silly, more of us should be sillier. So
wow. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Gemma.
Do you want to ask me anything, or?
We usually don't do a lot of interview stuff at Story Hour. We usually just
go straight into the next thing, and I'd really love to hear.
Yeah, I mean, we usually just have the stories. If we can absolutely talk more at the end if you want, but we'd like to have the stories do
the talking.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to read that.
Well, thank you for bringing a story that speaks so loudly for itself and for so many who can't.
Thank you.
Thank you. We like to take just a moment between the stories to recover from the first one and incorporate what we need from it into ourselves. And I feel like maybe we need that moment a little more than usual after that story. Thank you, Gemma Files. That was an incredible story. And we have another incredible story coming up that I have some familiarity with. So that is also cool. Our next reader tonight is M.L. Krishnan. M.L. Krishnan originally hails from the coastal shores of Tamil Nadu, India. She has been awarded fellowships and residencies from Tin House, McDowell, the Carnegie Corporation, Millay Arts, and the Clarion West Writers Workshop. Her stories and essays have appeared or are forthcoming in Fantasy, Strange Horizons, Black Warrior Review, and elsewhere. Her work has been anthologized in The Year's Best Dark Fantasy and Horror, Brave New Weird, Afterlives, The Year's Best Death Fiction, Wigleaf Top 50, Best Microfiction, Best Small Fictions, and more. You can find her at mlkrishnan.com. ML Krishnan, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. And Gemma, that was incredible. I just wanted to say that. So
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to yours.
thank you. Bringing the horror. Should I probably say content warnings? My content
got any.
warnings. Yeah, it's everything. Content warnings, pretty much everything. It's a lot of death, some abuse, just body horror. So I'm just going to get right into it. And I'm going to read from Afterlives. Yes. Interstate Mohinis. In the way of death runs the Vaidarani River. We are flayed open to its woe. We are always aware of its currents and gurgling lungfuls of unease. Time spun in recursive loops since I died in a scream of metal and flame and asphalt on the Parthibanur State Highway. There was no cremation. What could they consign to the flame? A scorched knob of my torso? My jawbone still glued with tissue? A lone filling snugly hidden within a lone tooth? Sometimes I dreamed about flowing water, about where I would be, not here, anywhere but here, if my body had survived the accident. Mushed, but still recognizable, with its vestigial humanness that demanded respect, especially in death. My ashes would have been tossed into an ocean or a river in a coursing procession of night-blooming jasmine garlands, women who keened and thumped their chests, and drunken louts who gyrated around my urn until they foamed at the mouth, until they collapsed in exhaustion or pleasure. When I first began feeding, I wondered if I was a Vedala or a Pisacha, but I felt no urge to sway from bale trees or dart into a hedge of tatapu with its ray-toothed flowers. Besides, I did not have any appetite for birds or small rodents. I only hungered for certain kinds of men. Maybe I was a Mohini. Still, I had no idea of what that involved. My life before death kaleidoscoped in and out of my field of vision, shimmery and indistinct. My knowledge of Mohinis was from B-grade movies that appeared in torn lesions of memory, of sullen heroines with thick, cold-rimmed eyes and billowing hair, who always wore chiffon saris, leaving little to the imagination. Their dark areolas were signal flares, beckoning the film hero through transparent fabric. And they always ambushed him along a quiet road, devouring the hero in more ways than one. I did not know how to seduce the men I wanted to eat, but they came willingly enough as soon as they recognized a somewhat feminine shape under my soiled clothes. The lorry drivers were lean and sharp as machetes, with their drug-glazed eyes and arak breaths. The college students tweaking on tabs of acid who slid off their motorcycles and into my arms. The married men in respectable cars were the easiest, who didn't even pretend to notice the windshield wiper piercing the lorry-rimmed void in my neck. I gorged on them all, sucked the marrow out of each knuckle and each toenail until they were reduced to papery crumbling husks. For a brief moment, my hunger would lessen. My skin felt supple, but I distrusted this newness, this heft, because I was nothing. A nothing death for a nothing life that I couldn't even fathom. So I walked and fed along the highway, along this momentary emptiness. This was all I knew. The Vaidarani yawns into a chasm of blistering liquid. We have valleys to ascend, a darkness like pitch cupping our throats. We drink. 3 relevant details mark the day I first saw her. 1. I was irritated. I had just eaten a middle-aged auditor in a safari suit, a tuft of a man with an unnaturally distended face. His skin held the waxy quality of an ash gourd. He had grabbed my windshield wiper the moment I approached him, trying to nail me in place as he frantically undid my salwar with his free hand. I snapped his neck clean in half and fed on his corpse in haste, before he inflated into a fleshy, putrescine balloon that squirted postmortem gases and fluids everywhere. He tasted rubbery and sulfuric, too. Post-feeding, I began to walk. I took my time on the Parthibanur highway corridor that yoked the big city with an industrial waste landfill, a polytechnic college that was also a homeopathic dispensary after sunset, and a shanty town that buzzed with a thriving opioid trade. Flyovers latticed the sky as far as I could see. This was a slim keyhole of space carved by rushing streams of traffic. And yet, shops and tiffin centers mushroomed out of necessity along the sides of the road. On this day, I avoided the streetlights, only weaving through deepening puddles of dusk. I stopped behind the biryani center, hoping to smell the food, crescent moons of slippery onions, sizzling fat, goat carcasses hung from hooks arrayed across the tin roof. My efforts never amounted to anything. I could only smell my human prey right before I fed, their fear and lust coating my tongue in a gummy residue. I crossed a construction site wadded between a fancy store and the biryani center, where laborers were splayed atop one another in a ganja-induced fog. At least someone's having fun, I thought. Finally, I arrived at the Sri Ane fancy store that sold everything from hair clips to bluish-hued stage jewelry that glimmered in various states of oxidation, to jumper cables for car batteries, and even tickets to the latest political rallies that zigzagged through the arena. I moved behind the store where I melted into the gloom of the urine-soaked wall. Its surface was papered in flaking Kanniranjali posters, giant cartoon tears embellishing a printed photo of the newly dead, so every passerby could mourn the end of a stranger's life. I watched people mill in and out of the shop for a long time. As the night wore on, I became restless. 3. A sudden quietude. My irises cleaved with visions of a bloated river in spate. And just as quickly, a wall of heat sliced through the mist, chasing the images away, snapping me back into the here and now. And then I saw her, the beautiful one. A Benz pulled in front of the shop. She stepped out of the car in a sari that was bioluminescent, flashing green as she moved. A tight braid, sheathed in nerium buds, swung down to her buttocks. Welts mapped the sides of her hips and circled around to her back. Her left eye was a faceted ruby under the streetlight, burst capillaries tinting it red. As I watched her, my loneliness opened under my feet in a sinkhole, taking me unawares. At first, I thought it might have just been my hunger, but it turned out to be something else entirely. The riverbank softens into caustic sludge. A forest winks on the far shore. The iron-leaved trees ring ceaselessly. From that moment onwards, I staked my days around the locus of her. My life had now bisected itself into two clean halves. The first, an endless conveyor belt of time and repetition and grasping men. And now every moment attuned to the beautiful one's presence. I could not allow myself to believe that I would never see her again. Every day, I tried to observe smudges of traffic for a gunmetal-hued Benz. Luckily, I did not have to work too hard. She had a routine, as I soon learned. The beautiful one visited the fancy store twice a week. Her shopping done, she would glide into the cool tomb of the Benz and leave. But sometimes she would walk down to the biryani center and order a packet of mutton trotters and rice. I ache for those moments when the night blinked to a standstill. The beautiful one sheathed in green silks, waiting for her food, almost immobile. I would dissolve into the long shadow of a concrete pillar at the construction site. I could have spent several lifetimes in that ribbon of time, of vehicles and mutton parts in the form of her illumined by headlights every time a car passed us by. And in those instances, I would always hear rippling water, a low hum that filmed over me. Some weeks, the beautiful one arrived at the biryani center with a man. I soon realized that this was the man that owned the gunmetal Benz. Piecing together an overheard mosaic of conversations, I learned that he was an up-and-coming big man, a land mafia goon who also nurtured a fierce political will. With the beautiful one by his side, he would hold kangaroo courts for his oily sycophants after he had sated himself on flattery and food. He had a wife and 8 grown children. Big men always had perfect families, and the beautiful one was not his wife. Every time the big man visited the biryani center with his entourage, He would be seated on a clean bench as befitting his status. His hangers-on arrayed themselves around his feet. He would then present a knotted length of fresh oleander to the beautiful one, his face slicked with anticipation. She would untie it gently. The big man would then jerk her closer as she squirmed in his thick arm as he bound and fastened the oleander around her hair. This was a regular show, a marquee-lit warning to his followers that were mostly made up of young men with hungry eyes and hungrier ambitions. A show to remind them that she was utterly off limits, belonging only to him. She never spoke a word through it all. The first time the beautiful one saw me through the grease-grimed window pane of the biryani center, she did not scream or flinch. She continued eating, a placid metronome of movement from hand to mouth. I had become careless, wanting a closer look, but I couldn't help myself. Her pale green sari faded white against the fluorescent lamp on the wall. Her neck shone purple with bruises. The big man was making a joke about her engorged lips, about his biting habit, about how he wanted to swallow her whole. I do what I have to, he said. If I want a midnight snack, I must eat. His sycophants laughed and hooted as if on cue. The beautiful one continued to eat in silence. She never looked away from me. As the night wore on, one of the hangers-on had whipped out a phone. Something about a cricket match. Vast liquid streams of money being moved around in gambling bets overtook the conversation. While the big man hissed threats and growled sequences of numbers into several cell phones, the beautiful one escaped onto the back porch to wash her hands. This was my chance. I swiftly emerged near the water drum. I'm sorry, I whispered. Please don't be afraid. I'm sorry. There you are, she said, without any surprise. Vali karda? Does it hurt? She gestured at my throat, the bent rod. I suddenly felt self-conscious. No, not really. She smiled then. Do you have a name? I don't remember. Ah, I also had one name. But he, and she pointed to the big man inside, gave me another. Now, Surodala, I blurted. I'm not alive. She looked at me for what felt like a long, unbearable flew of time. A glassy-skinned lizard darted across the floor. I know, she finally said and walked back into the biryani center. The moon is a thin, curved line over the way of death, a smile ripped from an unwilling mouth. The beautiful one and I started talking to each other. Our exchanges were very quiet and unobtrusive while she waited alone in the semi-opaque dimness for her mutton trotters. No one seemed to notice. Once, she even offered to buy me food. No, I can't eat this. She was thoughtful. If you're dead, can you eat rice? I'm not sure. At my grandmother's funeral, I made ellusadamurunde, rolled balls of black sesame rice. She spoke of her grandmother often, of how the old woman stubbornly refused to wear a blouse, choosing to only drape her sari on bare skin, of her saucer-wide earlobes that were adorned with tandatti, earrings floating over her clavicles in tetrahedrons of gold, of how she meticulously prepared paya, a goat leg broth simmered for hours in coconut milk. I used to hate it, the beautiful one laughed. I tried to hide my smile, but this is what you always order. She told me that she had despised its viscid collagen taste, its phlegm green hue. However, once her grandmother, her pati, died, she began to crave its smooth pepperiness. Now she ate it whenever she could. It's okay, Ma, she said. This is all I want to eat. In that moment, I understood the shape and contour of her particular craving for this dish. I wanted to tell her that my appetite was singular as well, that I could only consume one thing, that like her, I was also bound to a hunger not of my choosing. It makes sense, I said. Another night, the beautiful one pushed a steel tiffin box into my hands. Just try it. Later, I opened it when I was alone. Greasy, undulating mounds of black sesame rice spilled out of the container. I attempted to eat one, but it gummed over the section of the windshield wiper that cored my flesh. I coughed out what was left of the rice, and as if on cue, flesh flies immediately glazed it in mucus. I closed the box tightly. I wanted to preserve its contents for as long as I could. I wanted to ask her if I could keep it, because it was hers, because it tethered me to her in a connective skein, a talisman for when she was gone. Maybe next time, I promise myself. A well of laments, a hillock, and a cascade of spear points. How do we rent ourselves asunder? The big man was angry. He twisted through the biryani center in gales of unshed rage. Back and forth, he loped, toppling chairs when his fury dribbled out of his mouth in expletives. No one dared to approach him. He crushed 3 cell phones in his fists. Fear sent his entourage skittering for cover. Investment failure. Land deal poached. He's finished. CBI raid. I caught some murmurs from the sycophants. It appeared as though the big man had lost a lot of money. I did not care about the erratic ticker tape of his businesses or his ambitions. I only sought the beautiful one. I found her on the back porch of the biryani center, leaning as always against the water drum, a motionless pillar wearing silence. Inside, the beatings began. The big man's anger had detonated at last. A sycophant lost an eyeball. Another one got his nose broken. A Vashti-clad octogenarian tottered up to the big man and softly touched his arm. This was an expensive mistake. The big man broke a bench over the man's head. The octogenarian crumpled into a mess of flesh and exposed bone with an odd, burbling sound. This was when the beautiful one decided to intervene, decided to unsnarl the tangle of the big man's brutality somehow, decided to drape herself over the octogenarian in response. Before I could stop her, before I could shield her from the unerring finality of the big man's fist, before everything, this night, the biryani center, the gunmetal bends, the known arc of his violence, his hand sliced across her face, once, twice, thrice. The beautiful one's body bent at an impossible angle and folded in on itself. Her teeth rattled out of her mouth in a gasping breath. I rushed over to her and pinched my way up her arms, her neck. I begged for a thrum, a pulse. Its percussive hope, there was nothing. In that instant, madness undid me from the vacuum of survival. I scratched away my clothes and wailed until the tin roof peeled from the scaffolding. I leaped onto the big man's shoulders and held him still between my thighs. He continued to thrash with his bulk. I blurred into a wreath of hair as my jaw unhinged into him, as I impaled him in place with the windshield wiper, its usefulness finally telegraphing into view. A soupy, maggot-infested gush slopped around our feet. I was ravenous. But here, there was no polypeptide rush that seared my bowels with hunger. No apathy at the conveyor belt looping of men that I usually fed on. Instead, my skin thrummed with newness, a fury lined with teeth. I took my time in consuming the big man, his innards roping over my knees in glossy coils as I slurped through every tendon and nail and gristle. I saved his hands for last. We bring no payment, no supplication, no penance. The opposite of the Vaidarani River cannot be seen. 12 suns glare overhead. At first, I was nothing. Then I felt the throb of something in me, someone even, in the presence of the beautiful one. And with her gone, I had heaved over the cliff face of nothings and somethings and someones altogether. I crawled to her corpse and pulled it close, her skin to my skin. The big man's blood hammered inside the double-jointed cavern of my gaunt frame. I laid there for a long time, letting the beautiful one's body stiffen in my arms. Her anguish blushed into focus because I perceived her. Like tuning into the radio at the right frequency, the wavelets of our isolation looping into a mutual current of existence. A woman could succumb to a 5-lane mash of traffic, and people would continue to drift along their lives, her death a transient blip. Another woman sat, her skin strobing with wounds, and everyone pretended not to see. But I did, and the beautiful one had perceived me too. In that, we were one. At last, the river arrived, as I knew it would. It coursed through my body in long, deafening sheets of sound, and then the heat rupturing the eventide and the stars and the deepest dark as it split the night wide open across the waters. We waded into the boiling flood, the beautiful one and I. I held her corpse taut against mine. The river scoured away the last bits of us in burning rinds of flesh and hair. Marrow-laced foam filled my throat. It tasted of smelted copper ore, the embers of a long ago life. It tasted of relief, maybe even joy, though I could not remember what that was anymore. And that's it.
Woo! Ah, that's amazing. I love it. I
Ugh.
love it.
Did you know that one before, Gemma?
You know, I actually think that I had read part of that at one point, and
Mhm.
it's just so good. Oh my God.
It
I
is
was so
good.
excited.
I
when
had
Emma-
I have not read it before. That's amazing.
I
Both of
was.
you, man. Unreal. Completely. You've blown my mind.
Did you
Just,
guys like plan and put us together? Because our stories are actually pretty like on the same wavelength. I
I
feel like we
know. I
mind melded
know.
a little bit, right?
You know, I did think that you would be compatible, but I also know that you're both pretty versatile, and I wasn't sure exactly what you were going to be bringing.
Yeah.
Although, ML, when you said that you were going to read Interstate Mohinis, I was like, okay, good, good. That will hold its own. And there aren't a lot of people who follow Gemma Files reading an emotional story easily.
I was sweating. I was sweating. You could see
But,
this.
instead they just came together
Yeah,
and
absolutely. What a
God.
and
pair.
made the whole stronger.
Yeah.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think
We
Gemma
came
and I just
together
like
like
mind
Man, the
melded.
beautiful one. We came together.
Yes. I think Gemma and I just like mind melded. We
Mm,
sort of like had synchronized, and somehow we did it without even like discussing it. It's great.
yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
I was joking about these stories cursing anybody
Mm,
because I don't think that that's the kind of thing you write. I think that you're maybe showing the curses that already exist in this
well,
case.
I do think that language is a spell.
Mhm.
I can
Always.
see that. But I was very sincere when I said that, you were going to be sweet people reading scary stories,
That's true.
because I think only kind people would write these stories that are showing virtues like honesty and justice and gentleness so much through their absence, and how much we value the tiny bit of them that we see.
I think that's really true, and that's really well said. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for putting this together and bringing us together. This was so great.
Yeah.
No, horror
Yeah.
writers are just the best people.
God damn, it's true.
Of course.
I mean, I'm sure that there are some who are jerks, but I have not had the misfortune to meet them.
No.
The ones I've met are the people who understand that horror is largely the genre of emotion,
Yes.
and who are interested in things like justice and kindness and honesty, and they don't usually play the part of the aggressor, people dishing it out so much. These protagonists both did, well, yeah, they did both dish it out, but it wasn't just to be cruel.
No.
I think they
No.
both had nothing left to lose at that point.
Exactly.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Both protagonists was just like, what do we have to lose anymore? There's nothing. Yeah. It's just absolutely nothing. So yeah.
I mean, I don't know that the actual definition of Mohini. Did she even really have humanity anymore?
I think she found it briefly, and then
Yeah.
at a certain point, when it was taken away from her, I'm not going to say lost. It was very forcibly taken away from her.
Yeah.
She said, "You know what? I'm done." And oddly enough, that's when the river of death showed up. That's when, when she just completely gave up. That's when the river of, I don't think she gave up, but I think when she just completely sort of let go of,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
that's when the actual river of death came over, showed up. So yeah. And it was the same thing with the beautiful horror of the tree of
Thank you.
retribution. I was going to say tree of life, but I'm like, no, it's the tree of retribution.
Yeah.
It's a tree of-
It's just where you get to that place where you're just so done. You're so
Yeah.
done with people lying. And you think, well, if I follow this through to its end, then everyone is going to die. But you know what? Maybe we should.
It's kind of like the world tree, but the sort of like, the
Yeah,
dark
like
twin of
yeah,
the
the
world tree.
Yggdrasil, the
Yeah.
inverse
The
Yggdrasil.
inverse version of it, yes.
I think our world tree is very sick right now.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think both of those stories come out of, feeling that every day.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you
All right.
both so much.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, very much.
Yeah, I'd like to have them both again, Daniel. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, so
I feel like we've earned our keep. So
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, in a heartbeat. Just shout out,
All right. Anytime.
anytime. Thank
Anytime.
you.
and this makes Spooky Month something more than spooky too.
Mm.
So let me tell you about next week.
Please.
Next week is also going to be very cool. Next week we have E.C. Dorgan and M. Belanger. It's always good to check storyhour2020.com just to see if there are any changes. Also a good place to learn about upcoming authors, the rest of Spooky Month and a bit beyond. And there's a recordings page that's full of handy links so that you can go and catch up on some you've missed. Watch this one as many times as you need to. And come back. Come see us again.
All right.
Both of
Definitely
you.
will.
Thank you.
Take
Okay.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
See
Thank
ya.
you, Daniel. Without
you.
you,
Bye-bye.
none of us would be here tonight. None of
Exactly.
us would be watching
Laura,
this in the
Thank you,
next
Mel.
days.
Thank you, Gemma.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just
Okay.
want
1,000,000%.
I
Yeah.
just want to say, everybody, all of you watching this at some point in the future, thank you. And just go do something for somebody that is honest and kind and good,
Yes.
because it's the right thing to do. And you see what can happen when we don't.
Yes.
Good night.
1,000,000%.
All right. Okay.